every study must have a foundation. And I had to put a foundation to my study. Where is disease coming from? And I went from the preposition that an absolute foundation brings you to an absolute result. So if I base my study on things that are unchangeable, that are absolute, then my result will be also absolute and unchangeable. Because from an unchangeable thing, you cannot come to a changeable one. From an absolute, you cannot come to a relative one. It's absolute and it will give absolute results. And I think this is most exciting, because how could it be that I should come together with a human being and not pinpoint exactly his cause of disease? Then I would know nothing about him. So, putting things together, or basing all your observations, all your conclusions on something that is unchangeable, your conclusion must be absolute and unchangeable. And I'm so glad that that is so. So what is that what we need to know in order to build an absolute foundation of everything we study? We must know nature. We must know the laws of nature, how nature is put together. And we know that there is nothing, not even one thing in this nature that we can see and touch that is not under law. Everything is governed according to laws. So, knowing them, we build on something that is unchangeable. And we must know them. And then the human being, as an object, is absolute. Because she has fingers, objects are absolute. They're there. You can touch them. You cannot say then, well, that's an imagination. No, they are there. So the human being itself is an absolute item. So we can orient ourselves after him, because it's the same in every one of us. And then the third absolute foundation is the needs that we all have in order to function. So we don't have different basic needs. Now, we might have different needs that are not primary, not basic needs. But the basic needs are all the same. At any age, at any place on earth, there is never one exception. So these are three absolute things on which I have built my study. That's why I came to absolute results. I took here a picture from the universe to explain that there is a fundamental law of everything. Now, I haven't been in the universe. I just happen to be on this earth, a very small part in this vast universe. But looking to things, how they work here on earth, we might understand that all things in the universe work the same. So that's what I came to see in nature was a basic law. And we all know this law that we call the law of cause and effect. But you have to give a definition. You have to understand law in order to see how it works. And so I found the most basic definition that nothing can exist or function by itself. So if I take this tablet or whatever element you take, it cannot exist by itself and it cannot function by itself. And the next foundation of this basic law is nothing can do anything for itself. This serves the purpose, but not for itself. This tablet has nothing from that I use it. So everything on earth is functioning as a channel. Nothing is excluded. So search in nature. Search to find something that is not working according to this law. And come to me and tell me. You won't find. Because this is absolute. Every element must take before in order to give. But it is not there to take. It's there to give. That's why everything must have an entrance and everything must have an exit. Everything must have a cause and everything must have an effect. Now, disease is an effect and I must know the cause. That's why this law is basic in understanding disease. Now, while we all know that an effect cannot appear without a cause, and a cause cannot appear without an effect, they still are two different things. And they can never be the same. A cause cannot be an effect, and an effect cannot be a cause. That what we have at the entrance, we cannot have at the output. That's very important to see. Now, this law, as simple as it is, since it's in everything, there is nothing that is excluded from it, is that what enlightened me to understand nature and also the human being. And if everything that is in nature that we find works as a channel, it's obvious that when you want to make something to work with more elements, which everyone is in a place, then it must be a circuit. So everything works in us in a circuit, because that's basic. And I could spend hours speaking about this, but just here, this first absolute base. Now, the next absolute base is the human being itself. What do we all have in common? We all have in common structure, the way we are built. Every human being has the same structure. That is, he has the same organs, they are in the same place, and when they are somehow displaced or in a wrong place, so to say, then it's because there is an original order. But it's obvious that none of you, if you would be a physician, when you have to do a brain surgery, you cut the thorax, because you would know you won't find in the thorax the brain. That's what I mean with structure. Every human being has his brain in his head and his eyes in his head. Everyone is the same. That's why it's absolute. Now, function, how we work. We all function and work the same way. That's why function is absolute. And of course, we all have the same basic needs. What we need to live. There is not one human exception on that. Now, do you know what are the basic needs of the human being? Do you know how many kind of needs do we have? Now, I must admit that when I started my practice 17 years ago, I did not know. That's why I will challenge you to think about this. We will give an answer to it in our next presentation.